The moment Karen's kids started climbing my backyard fence, I knew something bad was coming. But I never expected sirens, a full HOA investigation, and a phone call that would shake Karen to her core. My name is Daniel, and after 10 years of saving every spare dollar, I finally bought my dream home. A modest house with a swimming pool in a quiet suburban community. It wasn't fancy, but to me, that pool represented every overtime shift, every weekend hustle, every sacrifice. It was mine. But the very week I moved in, I met her, the neighborhood tyrant everyone warned me about, Karen. She was the type who walked around like the HOA was the Supreme Court and she was the Chief Justice. Clipboard, sunglasses, permanent glare. And of course, her two kids, Tyler and Mia, who seemed convinced that everyone else's things existed for their entertainment. For a while, I managed to stay polite. I would smile, wave, and retreat inside my house as quickly as possible. But Karen saw my politeness as weakness. The first time she mentioned the pool, it was a friendly suggestion. "The kids don't have access to a pool," she said, tapping her pen against that cursed clipboard. "You should let them swim sometimes. It's good for the community." I laughed awkwardly. Uh, I'd prefer to keep the pool private liability and all that." Her smile disappeared as fast as a power outage. "Well," she said, tightening her lips, "we'll see about that." And oh boy, she meant it. A week later, I walked outside and found her kids halfway up my fence, trying to boost each other over like they were invading a medieval fortress. "Hey," I yelled, running over. "Get down from there. You can't be in my yard." They scrambled down and ran off, but Karen appeared moments later, storming down the sidewalk like a thundercloud with expensive highlights. "Daniel," she barked, "why are you yelling at my children?" "Because they were trying to climb into my yard. They can't do that." She crossed her arms. "If you just let them use the pool, this wouldn't happen." I kept calm. "My pool is my responsibility. They're not allowed." Her eyes narrowed. "You'll regret this." 2 days later, she made her first official complaint to the HOA, accusing me of hoarding community water resources. Yes, pool water. Hoarding it, as if I had armed guards protecting a sacred lake. The HOA president, Mr. Culver, laughed it off. He knew exactly how Karen was, but he also warned me she wasn't done, and he was right. The final battle happened on a scorching Saturday afternoon. I was floating peacefully in my pool, headphones on, sun warm on my face. Then I heard screaming. I sat up just in time to see Karen dragging her kids across my backyard, pushing them toward the pool steps. "Go ahead," she ordered them. "He has no right to keep this from the neighborhood." "Karen," I shouted, "you can't just walk into my yard." She whipped around. "It's a community resource." "No, it's my backyard." Her face twisted with rage. Then she pulled out her phone. "Oh, you want to play games? Fine. I'm calling 911. I'll tell them you're threatening children." My stomach dropped. "Karen, don't do that. This is ridiculous." But she had already dialed. She stepped back, smirking as she spoke loudly enough for me to hear every word. "Yes, hello, we have a dangerous situation. My neighbor is screaming at my kids and I fear for our safety." I couldn't believe it. I stood there, heart pounding, trying to decide whether to record everything or call the HOA first. Then my phone rang. Karen's face went pale, because the caller ID wasn't unknown or HOA. It was Sheriff's Department. I answered on speaker. "Hello, Daniel," the deputy said calmly. "Your HOA president just contacted us. He sent us the security footage from the neighborhood cameras. We're calling to make sure you're safe." Karen's jaw dropped so hard I thought it might hit the patio. The deputy continued. "We can clearly see the neighbor trespassing into your backyard. We're dispatching a patrol unit to speak with her." Karen suddenly started stuttering. "No, no, 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 this is a misunderstanding." But it was too late. Within minutes, a patrol car pulled up. The officers were kind but firm. They spoke to Karen for a long time. Too long because by the time they were done, her cheeks were red and her eyes were wet. She walked away quickly, dragging her kids, avoiding every neighbor who peeked through their curtains. That should have been the end, but it wasn't. The next week, the HOA held a special meeting. Karen showed up with her usual confidence. But when she walked into the room and saw Mr. Culver holding a thick folder labeled "Investigation Findings," her face fell. The HOA had reviewed everything: her false complaints, the security footage, audio recordings, trespassing incidents, and statements from neighbors who had been bullied by her for years. They voted unanimously to remove her from the HOA board, fine her for trespassing, and require her to sign a legal agreement barring her and her kids from my property permanently. When the meeting ended, Karen stood up quietly. No yelling, no threats, no clipboard. For the first time since I moved in, she looked human, tired, embarrassed, maybe even ashamed. As she walked past me, she whispered, "I'm sorry." It wasn't loud, it wasn't confident, but it was real, and I nodded. "Take care of your kids, that's what matters." She blinked, surprised, then hurried out the door. Now, months later, the neighborhood feels peaceful again. The kids don't climb fences anymore. Karen keeps to herself, but is kinder when she does speak. And my pool, it's still mine. But sometimes on weekends, I invite neighbors over. People I trust. People who respect boundaries. Because community isn't about being forced to share. It's about choosing kindness, fairness, and respect. And the lesson I learned from all this? Protect your peace, but don't lose your compassion doing it. If you want, I can also create 4 image prompts for this story, like your previous requests.